Hello, True Health Seeker, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Learn True Health podcast. Today we have a wonderful guest. You are going to love Eliot Marshall. He's such a genuine soul with a beautiful voice, and I just love his heart. And I know you will love his stories and his passion and compassion today, listening to this wonderful interview. Interestingly enough, I asked him to give us some homework, and he asked me for some homework. And so I want to make sure that you know about these 3 resources that I shared with him. One is for meditation. I know it's a really big buzzword, and we can just break it down and make it really simple. So many people find that meditation is helpful to them. And so if you want to experience the benefits of meditation, but you don't know where to start, I recommend a free resource. Someone I've had on the show before who's actually a really close friend of mine. His name is Forrest Knudsen, and you can find him on YouTube by searching Forrest Knudsen. His website is That Yogi Guy, and he's made so many great videos, and he teaches how to meditate in a very easy way. He utilizes neurofeedback and neuroscience. So he's all about the science around what happens to the brain when we quiet the mind, and also what happens to the nervous system, and taking us out of the stress response, which is very helpful if we're looking to decrease the physical effects of anxiety and also decrease anxiety itself. So I recommend that as a resource. The next thing I really recommend for anyone who is experiencing problems with sleep or problems with anxiety or panic attacks is soaking in magnesium. If you're a first-time listener, I have several interviews about this, talking about the science behind magnesium. You can go to my website, learntruehealth.com, type in magnesium, and listen to my episodes about the magnesium soak. We actually absorb grams of magnesium when we do this soak. It is through livingthegoodlifenaturally.com, and we were given a coupon code LTH, as in Learn True Health, to receive the listener discount. So go to livingthegoodlifenaturally.com, type in the coupon code LTH, and get the jug of magnesium soak. Listen to the episode first so you understand all the benefits and then how to soak in it. But our body actually absorbs grams of this magnesium, and we have hundreds of listeners that have shared that they have better sleep, significantly less anxiety, and that they have a greater sense of well-being. It really does make a difference, especially when we're magnesium deficient. And the third thing I recommend, I teach an entire course. It's an entire month-long course on eliminating anxiety and all the neuro-linguistic programming tools that'll allow you and empower you to no longer have anxiety. You can go to my website, learntruehealth.com, and in the menu, click on the anxiety there, and you'll see more information about it. I really recommend my course for anyone who wants to significantly reduce stress, anxiety, panic attacks, worry, or if you just are really interested in personal growth and you want more tools in your tool belt. It is a fantastic course, and I make it affordable for everyone to be able to learn these tools in such a way that'll empower them. So those are my 3 recommendations for people who want to decrease stress and anxiety in their life. Check those out. Enjoy today's show. Thank you so much for being a listener, and thank you for sharing this episode with those you care about, especially those who you know have some issues with anxiety, with worry, with depression. We can get together as a community and support each other. And that's what we need to do. No man is an island. We need to get together and support each other, and do that by sharing episodes that'll help each other, and sharing what has helped us, and just letting our friends and family know that we're struggling too, and we're there for them. And the more that we put down our guard and we're vulnerable with each other, and we share with each other that we care for one another, the more we can make a difference in this world. Recently, data from the CDC that was just published shows that the suicide rate for Generation Z, this is the generation that is currently between the ages of 10 and 24 years old, has increased by 56% between the years 2007 and 2017. Suicide is now the second leading cause of death for Generation Z. This is a major epidemic. We need to do something right now. And the only way we can make a difference is as individuals. So as individuals, all of us together can support each other by sharing this episode with those we care about and using the tools that Eliot teaches today. Just being there for each other, just reaching out to those we love and letting them know that we're a shoulder that they have, and letting them know that we want to hear them and listen to them and that they're heard, and also letting them know that we're struggling too. Just that amount of communication could save someone's life. So that's why I'm so honored to be able to publish this episode today, because my hope is that we can spread this message and turn this ripple into a tidal wave and help as many people as possible to learn true health. Welcome to the Learn True Health podcast. I'm your host, Ashley James. This is episode 387. I am so excited for today's guest. We have with us Eliot Marshall, who has an amazing story. And what I love is he's here to teach us how to find our power. As I've said on the show before, health, a lot of times we look at physical health, but health is not always just physical. Our mental and our emotional body and our energetic body all play a role in creating our physical health. And we need to be able to create that inner power, that inner motivation, that inner strength. We need to cultivate that so that we can go out and do the things that support our life, our health physically, but also our joy in our life. Eliot, it's such a pleasure to have you here today.
Thanks, Ashley. Thanks for having me on. I could not agree with what you said more.
Absolutely. Now, your website is eliotmarshall.com. And of course, the links to everything you do, it's going to be in the show notes of today's podcast at learntruehealth.com. Eliot, you've got 2 podcasts that you do, you wrote a book, and you own 6 gyms, and you're a professional fighter, and it's just like the list goes on and on and on.
And I had a massive breakdown 4 years ago. I had a massive, what I like to call spiritual, mental breakdown / spiritual awakening, because I wasn't paying attention to those things that were so important.
Well, I definitely, we're going to dive into your story. It sounds like you found your power, though.
Yeah, well, I'm still gathering it. I don't believe, I don't believe in ever reaching the top of the mountain.
We're never done, right? Yes.
We're never done. Like I get, the day I stop grinding is the day that they put the dirt on me. So,
right.
And like that grind might change. I don't know what it's going to look like at whenever.
Yeah. You get to the pearly gates and Jesus is like, all right, putting you to work.
Yeah. Whoever it is up there, right. Whatever it is, I'm never too concerned. I used to be super concerned with it. And now I'm not concerned with it at all, because I believe that we're experiencing both heaven and hell while we are alive. So I'm not sure what happens to me after I die. I guess I don't even really care. But I do care about what I do while I'm here on this earth.
What a beautiful dichotomy to hold in your mind, the idea that we're going through heaven and hell at the same time, that we can learn and grow and utilize both experiences or both perspectives to help propel us forward and help others as well. I think we find really true joy when we reach out and help others. That's where our ego drops away and we're in the now. We're totally in that moment. And you love helping people too. That's why my podcast is called Learn True Health. It's not like achieve true health and then you're done. It's learn true health and keep learning and keep learning and keep learning. So we're going to learn from you today, Eliot. I'd love for you to start by sharing your story. What happened in your life that led you to be such a wise soul?
So, I'll start with, I was born to an African-American dad who grew up very, very poor, and a white Jewish mother whose parents, my grandparents survived the concentration camps. So I had a very interesting upbringing, and we lived in this really small town where, those towns where they know when the kid's born that he's going to be the quarterback of the high school football team, and the homecoming king. like like everybody knows that. So that was my town, and I didn't fit in very well, which was I mean, looking back on it, it worked out great for me. It sucked,
Right.
right?
Right.
So then, so I would say my grandparents, my mom's parents, they had a very huge influence on my life. I saw them 3 times a week, and there was a common theme, and that common theme was that Hitler will be coming again.
Wow.
So that was difficult. I mean, I didn't know that it was difficult. Like I didn't know the effects that all of that had on me, but it obviously played a role. So,
did you feel
yeah.
persecuted or like ostracized for?
Oh yeah, I had no friends. I had 2 friends my whole growing up, maybe 3, and that was pretty much the extent of it.
Well, that lack of acceptance must have really played into the belief that Hitler was coming back for you as a child growing up. That fear, like, because you didn't feel accepted by your community, and if your community is already rejecting you, then that fear that the Holocaust is going to happen again was really real for you, really palpable.
Well, yeah, because their whole life was set up for it to happen again. My grand, like that. I mean, when they died, my sister lives in that house currently, and when my grandmother died at the time, like we went downstairs, it was 2000, and there was sugar and flour and stuff from like 1979. So, like there was no, like we were ready. Like we were definitely ready.
Yeah, my aunt was a prepper back in the 70s, and to the day she passed away, she did the same thing. She filled her entire basement with canned goods. So I know I understand that. Like, I didn't understand at the time, but then I started to like get like, that's a reality.
It's a reality. Look, man, we stole, like, I can remember crawling in farms because I lived in South Jersey where there's a lot of farms at night and going to get cucumbers, and we didn't need to steal. Like, there was no necessity for us to steal, but that's just how they survived, my grandparents. Right? Because okay, well, let's go. And we didn't steal like massive things, right? We stole 10 cucumbers, which I'm not condoning it. I'm not saying that this was right or anything like that, but that was the mentality. That was the concentration camp mentality.
Yeah.
Like, you have to survive.
Right.
So, and for me, like, I think it's kind of what triggered my anxiety, because I was always like, well, man, what am I surviving from? Like, it seems pretty good. I'm never hungry.
Yeah.
Right. I'm never, no. Why should we be scared? Huh? So it triggered this for my life, like this, like, whoa, what's coming down the pipe?
Right.
And then it came a couple times, as an older. The first time I was 19 years old, it was pretty bad. The second time I was 21, and it was bad.
Or when you say it was bad, were these events or were these panic attacks?
Yeah, acute anxiety episodes that lasted for about 6 to 9 months.
Oh, wow.
Right. And then up until this point, you still never know what's coming. But up until this point, my worst one was in 2016, and it was that was my dance with the devil. Yeah, that was my dance with the devil.
Were they provoked? Like something happened and that triggered it, or just out of nowhere you're sitting at home eating dinner and then boom? This
last one, in 2016, I just got back from 2 weeks in Maui, and my life was perfect.
Oh wow!
My businesses, I had 2 at the time. They were successful. I had a great wife. I had a great house. I had 2 great kids. I'm by no means like a gazillionaire. But I didn't, like, if I wanted something, I could do it. And we're not talking like Bugattis and private jets, right? We're talking like normal everyday people stuff. If I wanted to go out to a nice dinner, I wouldn't even think about like, okay, well, I have to save. Like, I had none of that going on. Nothing, right? My kids are healthy. My wife's healthy. Everything's perfect. Literally 2 weeks in Hawaii, come back jet lagged. And that's what did it, right? Like just a little jet lag. And then I didn't sleep for 5 days. Maybe let's just say somewhere between 4 and 8 hours of sleep in 5 days.
Sounds like it's related to your stress response.
Yes, probably. I mean, at this time, I mean, like when I go back and look at it, I was consumed with looking at like the numbers at work and how many members we had, and all, like, but I was consumed. So,
Yeah, and you have a degree in math, right?
Yeah, I have a degree in math, but don't ask me any hard questions, please. Because I got punched in the head for a living for 10 years. So I don't know if this, so that's always part of it, right? I'm like, man, is this the CTE? Because I couldn't tell you how many, concussion every day. I got punched in the head twice a week, every week from 2005 until 2011. So, and I'm not talking about punching the head by a 5-year-old. I'm talking about punching the head by another 250, 260 pound man.
Right. Right. So, I mean, you have your neurological wiring growing up was this fear that the Third World War is about to happen. The Holocaust is about to happen again. And then you have like a million concussions. So
yes.
There might be some little bit of brain injury that you're healing from.
My brain looks good on MRIs. Like, obviously, I'm not stupid, so I was always making sure of things like that.
Right.
I had a brain MRI, I don't know, 2 years ago. My brain looks good, but the real problems are what you can't see on an MRI.
Right, because that's structural, and
right.
The structure of the brain isn't really how the brain works. It's
right.
Yeah.
Like when Aaron Hernandez, when he died, it was the worst case of CTE that they'd ever seen. Right? So I mean, I know a lot of people think the guy's a terrible human being, but I mean, how much can we blame him?
Right. Right. It's like it's the same for people who have a mental health condition. Like, you can't hold something against someone who's schizophrenic. It's like, or bipolar. It's, they're going through something. And so we have to take that into account and hold empathy and forgiveness. Yeah. So what happened then? So after your last biggest in 2016, your biggest breakdown, how did you recover?
I realized that the way out was in.
I love that.
I'm going to try my very best not to sound super conceited here, but for my schools, I'm the one who's made it the farthest, right? I've won almost everything there is to win. I made it to the UFC, which is like the crown jewel. Like if there's a crown jewel for martial arts, it's did you fight in the UFC? I was not a champion, but that's like a that's like a marker that most people almost no one gets to have, especially 10 years ago. I've competed in everything. I've won. Like, so people are like looking at me like, okay, that's the mark, right? Like that's the mark. And I was just real honest with people. I was like, look, yeah, I might be your mark, but don't worry, I struggle too, just like you guys. So I'm gonna be okay. I have great friends to help me. I have all of the tools necessary to get this done. But I just want all of you to know, and I said this in front of the class one day. I like pulled everyone in right in the middle of my hell. And I said, I want all of you to know that if this is for you too, if this is what's going on, you're not alone. Right? You're not alone. So we'll all get through this together, because that's what we do as a community. Is we lean on people, and we're strong for ourselves and for others as well.
Did anyone come forward and say that
they were having a bunch. I'm like a professional therapist now, Ashley.
I love that. I think,
and that's what got me to write my book and start this podcast, and that I have, like my original podcast called The Gospel of Fire. The book's by the same title. So yeah, that's what got me to do all of it was my, I won't even say my path to overcoming, because I don't believe in overcoming. I just believe in the moment right now, because this is all we've got.
If more people were to stand up and say to their friends or their community, I'm going through depression, and I want to let you know that, let's get through this together. If anyone else is going through depression, let's talk about it. Or suicidal thoughts or anxiety or, fear. If we were to, instead of all be locked away in our houses, you look at neighborhoods today.
On our cell phones.
Right. Yeah. Oh, we're all locked away on our cell phones. But
no, in our houses on our cell phones.
Right. And we're just,
right?
and we're so isolated. We've really created a society in the last generation that's very isolated. And the best thing for mental health is to do it as a community. There's I did this really amazing interview with this guy who traveled around the world to study these techniques that are actually working at helping end addiction and helping end mental health issues like depression and people.
What was his name?
I'll remember.
Is it Johan Hari?
Yes.
The guy who does, yes.
Yes.
I'm trying to get him on my podcast because he wrote those 2 books are amazing.
These books are amazing. Yes, I had Johan on, and it's funny because he was like,
his books, the one Lost Connections, and that's about anxiety and depression.
Yeah.
Right.
I had him on the show right as his second book came out, so we talked about both of them.
Lost Connections.
Right. Yeah, we talked about both of them.
I hit him up, and he's writing a 3rd book right now, and he's like, "Give me 6 months, and I'll do it."
Sweet. Well, he's a great guest. I'll vouch for you.
Yeah, I love his books.
That was so his he shares these stories.
The Scream. Sorry to interrupt. Chasing the Scream, because that was the one about addiction. So Chasing the Scream was about addiction, and then Lost Connection was the one about anxiety and depression. My favorite part of that book was the apple. Do you remember? Did you read the book Lost? Did you read it?
No, I did the interview.
Oh man, he tells this story where he's in Indonesia or somewhere, and he gets sick. He eats this apple, and he gets sick, like really, really sick. But they didn't know that it was the apple yet. So he's telling the story, and he's vomiting everywhere. He barely stayed alive. He's finally in the hospital, and he's like, "Can you please just give me something for this?" And they're like, "No, we can't because we don't know what's wrong yet. And you need your nausea so we can help you." And sometimes we need our anxiety. I need my anxiety so that it can help me. It can point me in the direction that I need to go to find my power.
Yeah. Yeah. Because if you keep going down a path, like focusing on what you don't want to have happen in the future, the anxiety gets worse and worse and worse. You're like, okay, I'm going down the wrong path. let me start going down the right path.
Drink it away, right?
Sorry?
Or we can drink it away with alcohol. We can drug use it away with a whole lot of things, right? And then all we know, I think we both know that what happens is it comes back, and it just keeps coming back a little worse and a little worse and a little worse.
Yeah. He shared some stories about people who, when they got together as a community to support each other, that their depression went down significantly. And that even people who were, contemplating suicide stopped contemplating suicide. Like the idea that bringing together community to support each other does so much for mental health, and things just simple like volunteering. Doesn't have to be, it can be any kind of volunteering. Volunteering at a cat shelter or a dog shelter, or volunteering in a soup kitchen, or whatever kind of volunteering. But the fact that they say like the number one thing, if you're depressed, go volunteer and be part of a community, and people start to care about each other and help each other. And that they just show unanimously people have less depression and less suicide, less of being trapped inside yourself. When we do things like get into community and volunteer.
That was my whole goal with my book. The first one. I wrote, I was introduced to this lady. Her name is Erin Weed. She's amazing. And she does public speaking. And so I thought I was going to do the whole public speaking route. But she does this thing called the dig, where she finds one word that describes you. And my one word was power. So that's why I find your power. But what we got to is she was like, man, I don't know if the speaking route is your way yet, because one, you curse a lot, but I think it's amazing. And your people, and I've been pretty good so far. What are we, 20 minutes, 30 minutes in, and I haven't done it.
You're doing a really good job. You caught yourself There was an
almost
S
said one.
word. You
Yes,
almost said it. I was like, smooth.
Yes. So, but and she says my wife says this about me. I'm like a fungus, and I just grow on people. So that's why she was like, look, you need to start a podcast so people can get to know you, and you need to write this book. But this book, so the company that she gave me, this company, man, they charge $25,000.
Yep.
$25,000 to write this book. And I'm sitting there thinking, and I'm like, damn it, like $25,000, that's a lot of cash. How do you get an ROI on $25,000 for a book? Because I got to split with Amazon and this and that, right? I'm not Johan Hari. I'm not a New York Times bestseller already and all this stuff. But then I had to rethink it. I had a moment where I was like, man, what if I write just the most amazing book? And what will make it so amazing is that one person will contact me and say that I saved their life. If that happened, if one person just hit me up on Instagram or Twitter or wherever and said, yo, dude, I was getting ready to check it out and you made me not. I was like, well, damn, I'd have to write another one then, because a life is for sure worth $25,000.
So did you do it with them? Did you spend?
Oh yeah, I did it. And my ROI is ridiculous because I've gotten more than one. My ROI has been ridiculous. So
you really helped save people with your book.
Yeah, and then like the whole, we found this why in the academies that I own, and we have this. It's just nobody ever has to be alone. Like I know I teach martial arts and I teach this violent thing, and I have UFC fighters and like we're trying to beat each other up. That's what the goal of the whole thing is on the outside, right on the outside. But man, what it really teaches you, what Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu really teaches you, do you know anything about it?
I studied martial arts when I was a teenager in the early 20s. Okay.
So what it does, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is a grappling art where we submit each other with joint locks, but the whole position is controlled. So like a joint manipulation of a major joint, like your knee or your elbow, and chokes, strangulations. And we get to practice at full speed because when you lock my arm out straight, I can be like, oh man, that thing's not going to go any straighter. So I tap.
Yep.
Right. So I'm trusting you with your life, with my life, and you're doing the same for me.
Yep.
And the choke is the same. And then the better you get to learn how to like be in these submission holds and kind of deal with like, okay, so I'm getting choked and I feel this. This is very uncomfortable, but I just have to stay really calm because I know that freaking out is not going to get me out. So the calmer I stay right now, the better I'll be able to process how to deal with this arm around my neck. It's not all the way locked in. Like I can still breathe and blood still flowing to my brain. I'm okay. How do I stay okay? But those moments, that's really hard. It's super hard. It takes a long time to learn how to stay calm in that moment of being strangled. That's what martial arts and specifically Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is teaching us, in my opinion, is it teaches us how to stay calm in the very, very worst moments that our life is going to bring on us.
Mm-hmm. Well, because your body perceives a chokehold as a threat.
Yeah.
And it wants to go into fight or flight to try to save your life. But being in fight or flight shunts the blood away from logic centers of your brain. So now you're not, hopefully you have some kind of muscle memory going, but you really don't have clarity of mind when you're in fight or flight. And it's,
everyone goes into fight or flight in the beginning. Like if you came into jiu-jitsu class today, I put my arm around your neck and you're going to be like, oh God, and you're going to freak out. You're gonna, like, everyone just goes bananas for the first couple of years when they're getting choked. And then they tap, right? And you let go and you start again. And that's the beauty of it though, is it goes through like this human life cycle. Like you're born, you get to live and fight, and that's the fight. And then man, you die, you get choked out. And then you get to live again, and then you get to be reborn, and you get to try it again. You get to try it a little different this time. Like, okay, this time I'm going to do this. And you can see whether it works or it doesn't work. But it's really safe because your partner's taking care of you. Mm-hmm. And like I said, his life's in your hands and your life's in hers. So it doesn't matter. Like you build this insane trust with somebody else because you have to do this really hard thing, beating each other up. But you have to do it safely. because most of my students are not trying to be champions. We have schools littered with somebody who goes to work all day and then has 2.5 kids and a white picket fence and right, like the average American. And that's who we teach. Now, yeah, we have phenomenal champions as well, but who we teach is like who we really teach is you, Ashley. And are you married?
Yes.
And your husband and your kids.
Right.
That's who we teach. And you have zero goals of being a champion, but for some reason you keep walking in and you keep doing this really weird thing like Fight Club.
And you create a community. I loved my martial art family. It was so cool. We'd go out to dinner together after, most workouts and hang out, and there's a huge amount of bonding. You really, really start to care for these people, because you're right. You're putting your life in their hands. They're putting their life in yours, and you develop trust really quickly. Mm-hmm. And there's a great amount of respect. Did you start to notice, like, when you dived into this community, that you were getting emotional healing from being part of a community that was so accepting of you and helped you to drop your guard?
So I didn't notice it until later. I really didn't notice it until one of my students passed away, to be honest with you. He passed away, and it was at the end of my stint, of my acute 9 months, let's say. It was much more great. It was down the road. And I didn't cry yet. I hadn't cried. And I was sad, but I didn't cry. And then he was poor. He's very poor. His family was poor, and they couldn't afford to give him a service or anything. So we brought them out to Colorado because they weren't from here. And we at the school we just paid for everything, right? Like their plane tickets, and we just took care of it. And then I had to say something. I had to give a eulogy, and I absolutely lost it.
Wow.
Standing up there. And I was a baffling, crying, sobbing buffoon. And what I realized was that, man, over the last 2 years, that my students saved my life. Because I was like, okay, come on, man, you got to show up to teach your class, right? You got to show up. And when you go teach that class, it's got to be the best class possible. Like every class has to be amazing. And that was my goal through the day. Like that's how I got through the day. And then just more people showed up for me and more people showed up for me. So I was trying to give the most that I could. And just by them coming, they gave me the greatest gift that they could ever give me. So they saved my life, and I didn't really realize it until that moment standing up there, and I was sobbing. Like his mom was there, my students were, a bunch of my students were I was a mess. But that's when I realized that all we have to do is give. If we just give, even in the worst times, even in the hardest times, that's when you got to give the most. Just give to other people. And what comes back to you is going to be so stupidly much better. You can't, I don't even know how to explain it.
Well, you showed up for them, and you kept getting up every day, getting out of bed, putting on your clothes. That was your motivation to keep going, right? In the hard times, was making sure that you brought your everything to the lessons that you were teaching them. But if you didn't have your students there for you, you weren't having a reason to live at that point, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I had a great wife and kids, but they were the root of the anxiety. They were because mine is all around sleep. So I freak out with the sleep. And so I was like, man, I'm not going to sleep. And then when I don't sleep, I'm going to go crazy. Renee's only going to put up with this for so long. And then she's going to leave me, and then she's going to take the kids, but then I'm going to go more crazy. And then I could just play this circle in my head. Right. And it was awful. and I can still do it sometimes. Obviously, like I said, I don't. It doesn't go away. It gets quieter, but it doesn't ever go away from me. So, and so like I couldn't lean on my family. That sucked, right? Like, because normally that's what you do. You lean on your family, and I couldn't do that because they were like the one thing my oldest would do. I think he didn't understand it. I don't think he knew at the time. But like right when we were tucking them into bed, I would get into bed with him and I would like lay down. Sometimes I'd be like losing it. Maybe he could feel it, and he would just like put his hand on my back. And that always helped a little bit. But you know, but he's like my mini me, so that you know. But like I had to, for the most part, lean on something other than my family. I had to my at-home family. You know, I had to really lean on my students. My mom and dad lived, and my sister, they lived in New Jersey, so they like I could lean on them a little bit because I wasn't worried, like they weren't part of the anxiety. But yeah, and then a lot of therapy. I go to therapy every week still to this day. Every week I go talk to my therapist.
That is so healthy.
Yeah.
It's like, I think the most well-adjusted people go to therapy, and, you know, the old paradigm was that therapy's, you know, for crazy people. And it's just like, you know what? Therapy's for people who want to be mentally strong. I have a friend who said this. I guess she's a millennial. She's like an older millennial, but she said this on Facebook. She said, you know, she's a chef. She's a personal chef in Seattle. So she like caters to people who are one customer will be paleo, the next one will be vegan, the next one will be raw vegan, the next one's like, I don't care, I just want it to do delicious, the next one's calorie restricted, the next one's allergic to garlic. I mean, it's just like the list goes on and on. So she has to like balance in her mind.
I hate this, by the way. Starbucks is who did this to us. But okay.
She has to balance in her mind all these different diets and really caters to their tastes. Like maybe one doesn't like Indian and the other one does. And so she's really good at that. And she has a daughter who's about 4 and a wonderful boyfriend. And she also has a horrible commute because Seattle has really bad traffic. And she really seems like she's got her stuff together. And she says, you know, she said this on Facebook the other day, if you think I've got my stuff together, I wouldn't have my stuff together. It wasn't for the 3 times a week I go to therapy. She's like, there's absolutely nothing wrong with me mentally. And we need to break away in society from this idea that we go to therapy when there's something wrong. You go to therapy to make sure that you can keep it together. And she says that, you know, that's how she maintains an incredibly successful business. And she's an amazing mom, an amazing girlfriend. She's got everything together because she goes to therapy 3 times a week. And she says she would have exploded and probably killed everyone by now if it wasn't for the fact that she goes to therapy. So I love that idea that, you know, you find the type of therapy, you find the type of therapist that really jives with you, and you do it because it allows you to stay sane.
This is how I like to put therapy, because this is my best analogy. Do you brush your teeth every day, twice a day?
I'd hope so.
Why?
So my teeth don't rot out of my head.
Okay, so if you ever get to the point where your teeth are rotting out of your head, is brushing your teeth going to do anything?
No, you got to go to the dentist at that point. You
have to go take these drastic measures, right? You have to take these drastic measures. You're in crisis. How about you just brush your teeth every day, and I probably could guarantee you that won't happen.
Right.
I go to therapy like I brush my teeth. So I can stay out of crisis.
What kind of therapy? Because there's so many different kinds. Do you know what kind you work with?
So we did a lot of CBT, and now cognitive behavioral therapy. Now look, for me, I just need to verbal vomit, to be honest with you, because I have a lot of people that lean on me. Like we have 7 schools. We're about to open our 7th school. And they're all run by my best friends. Every single one of them.
So to be the boss of your best friends can be kind of stressful.
Yeah, and so I'm not really the boss. I'm kind of the boss, but we have like a CEO and a CFO. Like we're charging. We charge. We don't do this like most martial arts schools. So there's like every single one of my students knows that if they need something, that I'll be there. And I hope they know. If they don't know, I hope they listen to this podcast and they know that. Well, that pressure, that's a lot of pressure. So I have to go talk about that. I have to go get my feelings, how I'm feeling, out. Like I can't hold it in because I know what happens when I hold it in. When I hold it in, I can just play this loop in my. Oh, I caught myself again. I can play this loop in my head, and it will just go and go and go, and then I'll be, I can start in the North Pole and I'll end in the South Pole, and that is awful.
So when you sit down and you just get to verbal vomit all of the stuff that's in your head out.
Yeah.
After you get it all out, and while you're talking, because I bet the therapist doesn't really need to say much, do you start to really hear the patterns and hear your own limiting decisions and hear,
Yep.
You're like, oh, wow, that's where I'm coming from. That's interesting. Like you're practically doing your own therapy.
Yeah. No, I do a lot of my own therapy, but I need her. I can't do it without, I'm sure I could, but I love her. We only talk once a week. We do not I don't get coffee with her, nothing. I don't even know when her birthday is, and she probably doesn't even remember when mine is. And that's perfect. Right? Like that is absolutely perfect. I don't want it differently because it will ruin what we have. And sometimes we'll be going and then she'll just go, ooh, no, that doesn't make, can you say that again, please? And I'm like, here we go.
That's awesome. So she's kind of like a coach in a way.
Yeah, she's a coach. She's this 70-year-old lady. I don't want to talk to a dude. Some people, if I need to talk to a dude, I'm going to call one of my friends. I tried a dude and it just didn't work. I was like, man, I'm not telling you anything. This is no. I'll sit here and do this hour because I'm paying for it, but it's going to be the last time we talk. And my book that I wrote, I need a lady. They get it out of me the best. I don't know what it is.
Well, as long as they get it out of you, you're, it sounds like one of the key. So far what I've derived is to find your power, involve community, and get therapy. Does that sound about right?
That sounds about right. But I mean, we're going to take a hard left turn here if you want.
All right, let's do it.
Everything in my life that happens to me is my fault. You can't be a victim.
Yeah.
Extreme ownership. Like Jocko Willnick's book, Extreme Ownership, is amazing. Everything in my life is my fault, and then I have it tattooed on my arm in Greek because it was first said in Greek. The impediment of action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Marcus Aurelius. The obstacle is the way. So, if it's hard, amazing.
I was in a lot of landmark education classes. Have you ever heard of them?
No.
They started back in the 60s. They called themselves EST, and then they transformed and called themselves Landmark. They're like personal growth and development classes all around the world. And that's like one of the first things they focus on is being at cause in your world, being responsible for your world. Not that it's your fault. So this beautiful woman, she's like 6 foot tall, gorgeous African-American, long hair, always wears these amazing suits that just like, she's always so beautiful. And she stood there. I was at a talk, a landmark education talk in Atlanta, Georgia, and she stood there in front of hundreds of people. And she said, I take responsibility for the Holocaust. I take responsibility for slavery. And people are like, what? This is charged. What are you talking about? She's like, just hold on. If I am responsible for who I am in the matter, then it does not have power over me. And I get to dictate how my life goes. It has no power over me.
Nobody has my day, Ashley.
Yeah.
It's mine and nobody else's. I like to listen to a lot of people. One of the people I like to listen to is E.T. Eric Thomas, motivational speaker, black guy. And he's like, man, you're damn right I'm an African-American man in America. And you're damn right there's racism. Mm-hmm. He's like, my dad left when I was a kid. I didn't graduate high school and my mom did everything she can, but she was a crack addict. Ooh. He's like, yeah, so what? So what? So what? It's on me, man. It's on me. Of course that's not fair.
Yeah.
Right? Now, on the flip side of that, those of us who are fortunate have to do everything we can to help the less fortunate.
Right.
Right. You know, so I play this dichotomy, and it takes. I'm glad you do long podcasts, but if I just hit one side of it, people are like, oh man, that guy sucks. Right? You know, like this, like it's your fault thing. No, it is my job to sprinkle. I'm gonna steal an Obama line here, to sprinkle as much luck dust on as many people as I possibly can. However, when I'm talking to that individual person, my job is to be like, no, this is on you.
You're not a victim of your circumstances.
You are not a victim of your circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
You can't control your circumstances. The only thing you've got is you. And if you want to sit here and mope and cry and everything else, and it's not my fault, well then, man, if it's not your fault, if it's someone else's fault, you're screwed because you can't control other people. Like I can't get my wife, like, could you imagine for you to try to be like, you know what? What's your husband's name, Ashley?
Duffy.
Duffy. Oh, that's amazing. I'm going to try to get Duffy to not be mad at me ever. You would either go to the loony bin, right? You would either go to the loony bin or you're just screwed. You're screwed. How could you possibly do that? Like, man, what if Duffy wrecked the car? His mom died. Something else happened, and you come home and you were supposed to clean the kitchen, and the day went to crap. You didn't know. He didn't know. The house is destroyed. You're not home. He walks in. He's mad at you. Could you imagine? Like, you can't. None of that was your control over that day, and you're going to try to control Duffy? Come on, you're screwed if you want to deal with other people.
Mm-hmm.
It's on you. It's on you. You're not a victim.
It's what we do in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
So our husband's angry. It's what we do in that moment. Do we play the victim? Because that's not going to solve any problems at all. Do we divert blame? That's not going to solve any problems at all. But listening and taking ownership and saying, okay, now what? Now what can we do to solve this problem? Let's work on it together.
I would say I don't love my wife for all the good times I have with her. Like, man, you know how many good times and I'm not talking about sex. You know how many good times I have with so many people? I have so many good times.
Yeah. You
love them for the awful ones, like the 3 a.m, both kids vomiting, you know, like mad at each other. Nobody's doing what we want to do. And then the morning comes and everyone's still sitting there. Everyone's still there. That's where like the sword is forged. You know, the love is forged in those moments. It's not forged when you're out at the best dinner ever and like you're walking, holding hands on the beach and madly in love. Man, no way. That's not, I mean, like, sure, that's great, but that's not when that's not the fire where you, like, the sword is just molded into hard steel. You know, in my opinion, you know, like that's not when it happens. Because I mean, you know, if you're single, for all the single people out there right now, man, if you were dating somebody for a week and they were like, yo, let's go to Hawaii on this amazing vacation, you're gonna say yes, but you don't love them, right? You don't love them yet. Why do you love people? You love them for the hard times and that they're there for you, the community, the connection, right? You know, like I have 6 rules for my kids. This is my second book, The 6 Rules of Life for You and Your Kids. And the last rule number 6 is we ride or die. If my brother goes down, then I go down. And that's what real love is.
So you don't let tattletaling in the house, I bet. You get your kids to help each other.
I don't listen to it. I mean, they do it, obviously. They're children.
Right.
So it doesn't affect the decisions that I'm going to make with what happens next. No way. Because their job is to love each other more than they love me and their mom.
Oh.
That's how because they are going to most likely and hopefully outlive both of us.
Yep.
So that that relationship has to be stronger than the one that they rely on us for. And I know right now they rely on us for a lot, but they can't. It's so hard because they have to take care of each other, and they do. It's really amazing. It's really sweet. Yeah, you know, like my kids were just at a birthday party, a sleepover, and my 6-year-old. I have a 9 and a 6-year-old, and it was my 6-year-old's first time that he was sleeping at somebody else's house when it wasn't the neighbor right across the street. So like, who he thinks the neighbors across the street. I mean, so we have this 1950s relationship with them. We don't knock on each other's doors. Like if I need eggs, I don't ask for eggs. I just walk in the house, go in the refrigerator, grab some eggs. Like if they're not home, I have the code to their door. I'll unlock it and get the eggs. I won't even have to tell them. So, and it's vice versa. Everything's the same. So this was the first sleepover where it wasn't that family, you know? So basically like his second family. And he had a little trouble, and his brother was there. And like, you know, he like the way it went down, he just went and he got in bed with his brother, and they just slept together.
Aww.
And his brother took care of him, and all of his brother's friends were there because like it was his brother's friend's birthday. So there was like 7 kids there, 8 kids, all of my oldest son's age.
Right.
And the reason my youngest son was there was because the birthday boy has a brother who's their age, and they wanted him to be occupied and then not like in his brother's way. So it worked out perfectly. But then come sleep time, you know, he's never slept anywhere else before, especially not away from his mom and dad, and especially not where he was not very comfortable. Mm-hmm. But they know the rule number 6, man. If you know, we take care of each other. They have to take care of each other.
That's awesome. So we got to take care of each other, but
yeah,
we need to take responsibility. I like that dichotomy again. We're 100% responsible for everything that happens in our life, and we need to help those who are struggling. We need to build community. I was just thinking, I have a friend who was born with intense dyslexia, and he wasn't diagnosed just because of the time of when he was born. I think he's about 50 now. So when he was, he went through school as a intense dyslexic, but he was not diagnosed until 2 years after graduating high school. Wow. And his mom was an art teacher, so his mom helped him to pour in his creative outlet into things because he had a really, really hard time reading and writing. And of course, getting through high school, not being able to read and write is really really hard. And I'm just thinking, like, someone who, like, you use the example of a man who is African American, whose dad left, whose mom was a crack person, and had a lot of crap happen. And it's like, you know, he's like, I'm not a victim of my circumstances. There's definitely bias against me, the racial bias, my, you know, bias around my upbringing, right? And then my friend over here who is extreme dyslexic. You know, both scenarios, they could have said that they're a victim of this education system. They're a victim of the government. They're a victim of society's biases against them. They could have bought into the victimhood and not made a life for themselves. But they both just worked even harder than everyone else in order to grab the joy and the life that they want. And you know what? They're probably happier because it was probably harder for them, and it makes it even sweeter. That's like where that come back to that idea that we're in heaven and hell at the same time. Because when you don't have to work for something to earn it, that doesn't actually bring happiness.
No, it brings nothing.
It brings nothing. But when you have to work your butt off to get something, it's like that brings you the most joy ever. You know, it's just like we have to work our butts off because, you know, and no one has it all, right? You know, it's like someone might be a certain race, but the other person has a learning disability, or the other person has a physical disability, or like everyone's got something going on, or someone has, you know, bipolar. Like everyone has something. Everyone has their hell. Everyone does. And so it does not make racism right. It's not right. And that's how we as a community need to help make.
And we don't.
Sorry?
Sorry, go ahead. You go.
I was just saying that we obviously as individuals need to help as many people as possible, right? Because if we don't want a world where there's racism anymore, then we need to be that example as individuals to help that. But everyone is going through their own personal hell. Everyone has their demons they're facing. Everyone has their struggles, right? And so if we own it and then we plug into community and help other people and other people help us, I love that idea of taking ownership, but at the same time helping other people, because we need to help, because everyone has some imbalance that they're dealing with.
And we don't need to compare.
Right.
Mine doesn't have to be worse than yours, and yours doesn't have to be worse than mine. We don't need to do this. Like we are where we are, and your hell is hell right now, and my hell I don't need to be like, well, let me tell you how bad mine was. Like,
yeah.
That's unnecessary.
Right.
That's unnecessary. And in the last little part here that I think really helps me go through my life with this dichotomy is I don't believe in the self-made man, or that term is self-made man or woman. It doesn't exist. Because
it took more than one person?
Man. So, I mean, for example, this guy, Eric Thomas, he's like the number 2. He's like an amazing motivational speaker. Did he invent the internet? Because that's what's made him be able to do it.
Right.
Is the internet.
Right. So someone who's a famous author, like he didn't invent books, or Tony Robbins didn't invent like infomercials.
No. Did you invent the author? Did you invent the printing press? No, because that's what did it. But without the printing press, your author, your amazing writing skills out the window. How many millions of people, billions of people came before you who could tell way better stories in a way better way, but there was no such thing as the printing press. But now, while you're alive, there's this printing press, and all of a sudden you did it on your own? Come on. I
love that, because we often will look at these people who have really made it. They made it. Like Tony Robbins has made it. He's like a billionaire.
Yeah.
He has made it. He's helped so many people. And you look at him and you're like, I could never do that. He's,
yes.
But that's like the
that
little
might
voice,
be right. But hold on, that might be right. You might not be able to be Tony Robbins. You know what I'm not? I'm not LeBron James. I am not 6'8". I am not a physical specimen that LeBron James is. That might not be what I am. That's okay. But there's something that I could be LeBron James-esque at. I could be amazing at something. That's what we have to realize. We got to stop this comparison. Like, man, I want to be like Mike. Yeah, me too. I wanted to be like Mike my whole life. So, but it didn't work out. So what? I'm going to be better than Mike at what I do. I'm going to be amazing at Eliot. That's what I'm going to do. And I hope that my amazing at Eliot shows everyone else who's a fat Jewish black kid growing up with no friends. I hope everyone else that sees that can go, oh man, I could be amazing too. Because I don't believe personally, I don't know, we might differ here. I don't believe in free will. I believe we are a product of our chemical makeup and our life experience. And we can't touch our chemical makeup. There's there's medicines and things that we could do to do that, but that is what it is. Mm-hmm. However, my job is to touch people's life experience.
I'm curious. Can you explain what you mean by we don't have free will?
Yeah, so it comes down to things like choice. So, and we make choices all the time. Every day we make a choice. Am I going to have apple juice or orange juice or blah, blah, blah. Can you think of a movie for me?
The Game Changers.
Think of another one.
Rambo.
Okay, so why'd you think of The Game Changers?
Because I just was telling my doctor about it today.
Okay, so you already had that conversation.
Yep.
And then what'd you think about Rambo?
Because I guess The Game Changers is about a bunch of athletes, and Rambo is also a muscular guy.
Right. So all in the same realm.
Yep.
And why did you make that choice? Were you free to make that choice, or did it just pop in your head?
I mean, I know a lot of movies I could do, but those two popped in my head.
Just pop, and you can't even explain to me why.
I can't. No.
So were you free, or did it just happen?
I think it just happened.
So so at what choices that we make in our life do all of a sudden does this innate you take over and start making that choice?
Well, I think consciously when I catch myself.
Couldn't have asked you more of a simple conscious question.
Well, when like I have to really consciously go, okay, this is a healthier choice for me to make.
Right.
You know, so if I'm in the kitchen.
Sometimes you eat the ice cream, don't you?
Yeah. Because I go, too. You know, okay.
I know.
We'll just do it. But it's, you know, it's plant-based. It's not, there's no dairy in it because that would hurt. But yeah. Sorry?
Are you a Buddhist?
No, I'm allergic to dairy and I'm plant-based.
Okay. So, right. But still, like the choice, it's really this really weird thing because like I said, we make choices all the time, but if you could,
but who's making the choice? Who's making it, right? Like we
are. We definitely are. We definitely are making that choice, but we couldn't make another choice in the moment is what no free will means to me. Mm-hmm. Because of our chemical makeup and our past experience. But that's what lets me do the whole no blame, no credit thing.
Well, you're also stopping yourself from shaming yourself or holding on to guilt.
Or others.
Yeah.
And others. Mm-hmm. Like even like the murderer. It helps me have a little empathy for the murderer because I can say, man, if my life was that life, that's where I would end up too. Like I'm not better than that guy. Now, it would be really hard for me to get there right now, right? It'd be really hard for me to be poor and broke and homeless right now, currently. Yeah. That would take some major screw-ups. Is screw up a curse word?
No.
Okay, nice. Okay. That would take some major screw-ups on my part. Like, this would take years for me to mess this up that bad. But currently, man, let's rewind 20 years. Mm-hmm. You know, let's go put myself in the Vietnam veteran or the Iraq veteran or the whatever war veteran. Let me live his life and let me kill some kids, possibly, and then let's see where I go. Mm-hmm. But we don't like to think like that. We like to think like, man, like, yeah, sure, this you could probably handle that, but we're not talking about this you. We're talking about a different you, a totally different you. Mm-hmm. So that's what allows me to have a lot of empathy and try to be like, you know what? I am not better than anyone. And at the same time, no one's better than me.
There's a principle in neurolinguistic programming that everyone is doing the best they can with the resources they have available.
Yeah. You think anybody wants to be a crackhead? I know what I'm going to do today. I'm going to wake up and become a crackhead. No one has ever said that. Now, a lot of people smoke crack. Unfortunately, right? A lot of people smoke crack and do terrible, awful things and make terrible, awful decisions. But, you know, they're doing the best they can in the moment.
What's advice you have for people who really want to turn their life around, who have just come to the conclusion that the direction they're going is not the right one for them, and they see themselves going down that really dark path?
Amazing, good for you. Yes, amazing. So now we can start. Right now we can actually start to do something because you're saying I want something different, and until you say that, nothing's going to change. Everyone, probably everyone listening, if it's adults, knows somebody or maybe is that person who is an addict, right? They're an addict. Man, how much talking to an addict can you do to get them to change? Nothing.
Jeez, they have to be ready.
They have to want it, you know. And I know sometimes we go, oh man, that's rock bottom. That's got to be rock bottom, and then nope. Like we don't know what rock bottom looks like. But once you see it, once you are lucky enough, and I say lucky enough, to get a glimpse that you want something different for your life, now we can do it. In my opinion, the way it's done is with mindfulness. We have to learn how to be in a moment. We have to learn how to just be still and be in a moment. And the way I do that is with meditation. I meditate every day. That's where I start. And that's why I recommend for everyone to start when somebody asks me for some help, is I say, hey, let's try this meditation thing.
How did you learn to meditate?
So religions never worked for me, and they never, and I don't, I hope I don't want to come off like I'm going to bash religion here, because I don't want to. The whole sin thing doesn't make sense in my mind. Like it doesn't make sense to me. Like I was born and then so you're telling me I was born terrible. And in my opinion, if you tie it back, it always ties back to some event or something that 10,000 years ago, whenever you choose the religion and the event that happened. And it's like, man, well, why is that messing with me? Like, why am I paying that price? Do I do things wrong? Of course I do things wrong. So the traditional Christianity and Judaism and Islam, they just don't work for me, because there's I can't rationalize it out. But sometimes the Eastern religions, they go a little better for me in my head.
Mm-hmm.
And not so much the religion of them, but the practice of them. Because you lose the self, especially in like Buddhism.
Mm-hmm.
And how do we lose the self? We start losing the self by realizing literally just one single moment. And I've been able to realize moments in my life a couple of times, like where I've had just these. So when you fight, when you walk into that cage and that cage door gets locked, there's only you and another dude in there. You're not thinking about anything else. There's dinner is not going through your head. Nothing. My children are not going through my head, and my wife and my mom, nothing. And then there's even just more. There's more stillness. I can remember the very last fight that I had. My nickname's the Fire Marshal, and then my coach, he just called me as the Fire Marshal. And he sat down on the stool, and I was probably, it was tied or I was losing, 1 round apiece. And he looks at me and goes, all right, well, Fire Marshal, we all know that this could be it for you right here. And I mean, we're in the middle of chaos. It's chaos. A fight is just chaos, because you're literally, if that person had to kick my head off, they would do it. Right? So, and I just remember this peace came over me, and this absolute calmness. And I went out and I had the best round of my life against the best opponent I ever fought. And we don't it was just this amazingness. And I never got to do it again, because that was my last fight. And yeah, so those moments, if we can start to realize them a little more, how do we recreate that? And you recreate that by focusing on your breath, by realizing that all we have is right now, and things like and just digging deeper and deeper into that.
I love it. That's so cool. One of my best friends is a master Kriya Yoga teacher. Kriya Yoga is not the stretchy kind of yoga. It's the stretch your mind kind of yoga.
Okay.
I'm gonna hook you guys up. I've had him on the show before. He's coming on again. His name's Forrest Knutson, but he figured out he lived in a monastery for several years. He was a monk, and he's been meditating since he was a teenager. He grew up in Idaho, and he felt like while everyone was drinking beer and driving trucks and doing football, he was meditating. He did not fit in. And so he escaped to California and lived in a monastery for many years as a monk. And he figured out a way of using biofeedback to go deeper into meditation and to actually get into those theta waves and stuff like that. So he's all into the science of how to maximize meditation. And I think that you guys would really get along. Actually, you might want to have him on your show. Actually,
I would love to.
Yeah, so. I mean, his meditation's his entire life, but what you described is really non-threatening for people who've never meditated. Okay, I'm just going to breathe and focus on the now and get that all I have is right now. Okay, I'm just going to breathe and be in the now. You know what I mean?
You can't mess it up.
Right. It's like
if you sit there for 10 minutes, you did it.
Yeah.
Right. Like, yes, your thoughts go all over here and there and wherever. Like, yeah, sure. Okay. But a little stillness in your day. I'm reading Ryan Holiday's new book, Stillness. And it's amazing. Just have some stillness every day where you just sit there and breathe. Because our days are chaos. We've done this to ourselves. Like, society has done this, correct? Like, you said you have 2 kids. How old are your kids?
Oh, I have one.
He's
4.5.
4.5. Like, you're like, man, you're here, you're there, your husband, your job, your podcast, you're this, you're that, right? Like, and then your phone rings, and God forbid, like that damn cell phone, because it never leaves you alone. Or did you choose to have it never leave you alone? Mm-hmm. Because you actually respond. I know I do the same thing. I'm as guilty as everyone. I choose to respond. That one of the best things I ever did was turn that damn thing on silent. Yeah, and that just like, because I'm not a slave to it as much. Mm-hmm. Every beep it makes, right? Like beep, beep, beep. Oh, what's that? Oh, a notification. Oh, Instagram. Oh, Facebook. Oh, my email. Oh, this. Oh, that. And we try to say this stuff like in the name of like protection and security, right? Like, oh, the kids are at school, so I have to have my phone on. Man, our parents didn't have cell phones. And somehow when I got sick at school, they found my parents.
Right.
And my parents came and got me. I was never like stuck at school. Like I never for days upon days. And I was like, and we do all of this in the name of security. And it's not doing, like, it's just not true. Like, there's not more child abductions now than there was before. So why do you have to track your kid on the cell phone?
Did you find that your anxiety went up when you found yourself at the peak of phone notifications?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I had to turn my phone off I had to stop screen time. Like at 6:00 at night, the phone had to be done. I mean, I can do it now. I do better with it now. It doesn't bother me as much. But because and I didn't have my phone on silent. So every single time that thing beeped, there was something for me to respond to. And it's not true. It's just not true. Like, what happened? Like, can you imagine, like, 20 years ago? How old are you, Ashley?
I'm 39 and a half.
We're the same age. When's your birthday?
March 7th, 1980.
Oh, I'm July 7th, 1980. Look at us. Nice. We're like almost exact dates. Look, awesome. The 7th. Yeah. So we're the same age, right? Like when you were 15 years old and somebody left the house, where'd they go? They just disappeared into the ether, right?
We just managed to find each other, you know?
Yeah, but somehow it all works out. Like, you know, right. Mom came back with groceries and Dad put them away and like whatever, like, you know, like, all right. But
yeah, life without cell phones was fantastic. It was weird. And every time we drive somewhere, I'm like, how did we get places without GPS? Right? I don't remember. Right. But I remember driving to addresses that I'd never been to. But how did we get there? Like, how did we know how to get to places? I
try to do it now. Like as soon as I drive to a place, so I do a couple times with the GPS when I go places, and then I turn the GPS off. I'm like, okay, I'm going to try to remember things like you remembered things. But you should be like, okay, dude, so you're going to get to my house. You're going to after you take that left, you're going to take the third right. It's going to be by the Shell station. And then, but you had to like do this.
Right. Yeah.
That's exactly how we did it, especially when we were kids and we were riding bikes.
It's like a whole skill that we don't have anymore.
Yeah, it's a whole skill. My kid, like, so, but that's important to keep. And look, I don't want to just hate on social media and cell phones, because it does give us the connection that we need. Like, you and I we couldn't be doing this nor have scheduled this or anything without social media and things like I'll call this social media, and email is social media in my opinion. So it's not all terrible, but we need to have like this balance. There has to be this like a little yin and yang, like no victims, but everything is your fault, but you got to help somebody.
I love it. I love the constant dichotomy is great. It actually, you have to have higher thinking. You have to have developed higher mental thinking to be able to hold two opposing thoughts at once.
Because they oppose.
Right.
They definitely oppose.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm a math major, and I guess this is why, for me, getting back to like the religion a little bit, why it never worked for me, because there comes a point where the thought can't be opposed, and that has to just be true.
Right.
And that doesn't work for me, because everything in my life is falsifiable.
Question everything.
Not question it, but like, you could prove it wrong to me. Like, everything, I wouldn't die on a single one of my beliefs. I could be so wrong.
Yes. You're willing to be so wrong. You're willing to change your mind. I love that.
Yeah.
Like, I was so hardcore keto, I don't know, 3 years ago. This is the best diet in the world. I can't believe it. And then like a few months later, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like really bad. What was I thinking?
Right.
And, to be able to go, you know what, there's some diets that are really good for some people at that one point in their life. And then 3 months later, it might be like a poisonous diet for them or a different person. And it's about finding the right diet for the right time for the needs of the person, but not being, not buying into any dogma. And so being willing to be wrong, being willing to, like, I love that you said, don't die for your beliefs. Oh my gosh, people do that all the time.
Not a single one. And not to get political, I'm not going to judge you at all based on this question, but are you pro-life or pro-choice?
It's a really, really hard question. And it's something that I've grappled with for a long time. And I thought when I was a teenager that I was 100% pro-life. And then I found out after my mom died, my dad, right, like the night my mom died, my dad sat me down. I don't know why he waited till she died. I guess it was her wishes. And he said, you know that you would have been an abortion if I wasn't pro-life. Because they, and I was like, what? And my dad said, your mom never wanted you to know. But I said to her, no, we're going to get married. I believe, and he completely stopped being a bachelor. Like, he lived such a party lifestyle. And he said, right, I love this unborn child in you. And I'm going to raise her or him or who, because they didn't know. Right. And he was just so, he loved life. My dad has passed since, but he loved life so much and he loved people so much. And he was so firm that, life is so precious. And that really laid an impact on me. I'm like, yeah, well, I can't impose my will on anyone. So for me, it's like, for my body, life is precious. And that's I can only say I'm pro-life in my womb, because that's the womb I control. Right. And I wouldn't impose it on anyone else. So
the only reason I ask is because so many people, like, let's just say you said, okay, I'm pro-life. Well, then I know that you would be pro-Second Amendment, and then you would be pro this and pro that, or against this and against that, because we are so divided.
Right. The second, the second someone is pro-guns, that must mean they're this, that must mean they're that.
That must mean they're pro-life.
Right. Must mean this,
if you're
must mean that.
If you're pro-gun, you're pro-life.
Right.
And that is such crap. Yeah. That is total crap. Well, this is where we are.
Right. And the problem with the reason why they created a two-party system, if you look at it, it's to keep people fighting each other. If you keep the masses fighting each other, they will not rise up together.
Right. Because you think the other side is so terrible.
Yeah, exactly.
If you voted for Donald Trump, you are such an awful person. I can't even be friends with you anymore. And if you voted for Hillary, Oh my God, her emails, like, and we just hate each other. We just absolutely hate. Man, the day I lose a friend because of who they vote for, I have a huge problem. I have a huge problem. I'm not friends with anybody because of who they vote for.
There was a time when I was in high school, this is in Canada, and so socialized medicine. So they
I
actually,
thought so with that
house
voice.
and about, house about.
Yes.
I don't say A anymore. So when I first moved here, my coworkers beat the A out of me within 1 week. Because every time I said A, they'd all turn to me and go B, C, D. I'm like, oh. So about a week after that, because it's a habit for us to say A. But anyways, I don't say A. But I can't shake the house or the about. So in Canada, I was really proud that I wasn't afraid of shots, getting any vaccines. So I'd be the first in line. In high school, they didn't need our parents' permission. I got like the Hep B, Hep C, whatever. I got a bunch of those vaccines. I got a bunch of whatever. Flu shots weren't really that big
Right,
then. They were just starting to come in, but I was super proud of getting them. I was first in line. I was like, I'd pull up my sleeve. Yeah, give me extra. Give me more. Give me 3 vaccines. Come on, I'm not afraid. I love shots. I was so pro, that. And then I started, it's like I just started to learn more and more and more and more about pharmaceuticals and that. And now I'm like, I look back, I'm like, I was a completely different person than I am now. My belief system, thank God I didn't hold on to a belief system just for the idea that it was part of my identity, because I have the exact opposite beliefs that I did when I was a teenager.
If I die thinking what I think right now, oh my God. I mean, let's just call it 80. Let's say I get to 80. So, if I die thinking what I think right now in 40 years, oh, what a waste of time.
I love it.
What a waste of time. It means I learned nothing. Yes. It means I read no books. It means I did no study. It means I did no self-exploration. I did no growth. If I die like this, if this is where I end, man, what a waste of time.
I love that attitude. It's like, challenge my belief system. Let me expand my mind.
Please.
Yes.
Please. Again, it's why I love, so jiu-jitsu for me, that's my rule number 1 is you have my kids and me and my kids. We have to do jiu-jitsu because it's ever changing. Mm-hmm. And the way that you have to deal with it is ever changing, and you get a live response. Like in the moment, you get showed how wrong you are all the time, and you have to adjust to that person. Mm-hmm. Like you did that wrong. Did that wrong. Like if you when I say bat, like if you are successful at 25% of the moves that you try in jiu-jitsu, then you're amazing. You're a world champion because you're just wrong all the time. But you get good at being wrong. You get good at adjusting. And you get good at not caring about it. Who cares? Because all I do is mess up. It's what I do better than everything else in the whole world is mess up.
Oh, that is so cool. That concept of if you're actually getting it right 25% of the time, you're like a world champion. So there's like a lot of getting it wrong. And that's okay, because that's actually good, because you're learning from each instance. I know so many people who are afraid to cook in the kitchen, or afraid to really expand their palate, because it comes down to it, they were never comfortable with failing in the kitchen. They burnt something once, their spouse didn't like what they cooked, or whatever. It's like this mental block.
And then they tie their identity to it.
Right. I'm not a cook. I'm not good at cooking.
Then they tie their ego to it, and your ego gets in the way. But if there is no self and there is no ego, then how can it get in the way? Right? And then how can it get in the way? So if we can work on this and we can just kind of be outside of it a little bit, then maybe possibly we could learn how to cook. Because come on, make a meal, and you tell me you've never had a bad meal before? We've all eaten at McDonald's.
I was never afraid to burn things in the kitchen. I was never afraid to mess up. And I was like 6 or 7 years old. My grandmother was teaching me how to cook. She was, like a German, Polish background. So she'd pierogies and shortbread cookies and this amazing chicken soup. And I just loved making things in the kitchen. And you know, I have burnt so many things, and that was just part of the process. And my friends love eating at my place because I cook really, really healthy, delicious food. But I just don't have a fear of failure because I always am pushing the edge of the limits of what I can do. My husband's like, you experiment too much because there's a potential. There's always like that, like fear factor. Like he's looking at me, like about to put the fork in his mouth. Like, is this going to be bad? Is this going to be good? Like, I don't know. Because when it's good, it's really good, but I'll serve anything, even if it's bad. So it's just like he just does not know what he's getting.
Right.
So, but I experiment. And then he was just last night we were over at our friend's house, and he's like, "Your food is always good." And he looks at me. He goes, "You experiment too much." I'm like, "That's because Naomi only serves you the success stories. She doesn't serve you the failures." And Naomi's like, looks at him. She's like, "Yeah." You know, we fail in the kitchen so we can learn how to make stuff better. And that's how we succeed. But we don't see it as failures. We just, it's like science and it's an experiment. And then we go, oh, okay, less garlic, less time or next time, or I'm going to just do this next time, or I need to set the temperature at this. And it just becomes this continual ebb and flow of learning and growing the culinary skills.
There's a saying in business, hire slow, fire fast.
Yes.
And that's what you have to do because you have to realize your failure and then let it go. Right? Hire the wrong person. Now, am I going to hold on to this? Right? Am I going to hold on to this? Because now, again, it's going to be me who failed because I hired that person.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's going to be me who failed because I burnt the food or I did this or I did that.
Right.
But again, this is all coming back to you and your ego and yourself. And if we can get rid of this idea, if we can just lose that idea, because we know that our ego is the enemy, then that's another Ryan Holiday book. Sorry, I steal everything. Nothing is original.
You should.
Yes,
you should, because you package
somebody
it.
did it better.
You package it. Well, you package it better. So
I work on my spiel, and I'm even doing it without cursing. Look, this is I've never done this before.
You're doing amazing. You need to hit the road. You need a whole show.
Yeah, we'll get there. So, but yeah, people it's okay. It really is okay that we fail. It's the most amazing thing that we can do is we can fail because it's just like courage. Courage is not being afraid. Courage, here comes one of my rules again, rule number 4, is being afraid and still doing it.
Yeah.
It's, so.
It's owning your fear.
It's saying, yes, I'm afraid, but you know what it's not going to do? It's not going to stop me. I'm going to go. And failure is the same. Of course I'm going to fail. Man, there was this one time we were doing this thing for for the schools. We spent $26,500. I remember the exact amount, $572. It took 9 months for them to build it out and then implement it. You know how fast we realized it sucked and wasn't for us?
I don't know.
1 week.
Oh, no.
1 week. And then we're sitting there looking at each other going, damn it. But it's not for us. It's not who we are. It's not our culture. It was so bad for us and we could see it. We had to let it go. 27,000, almost 30, $30,000. But what would have been worse is to try to shove that crap down our people's throats. What would have been worse is to put that out into the ether and put that out into the public so people could see that this is what we're doing and this is how we are. That would have been worse because that would have compromised my soul.
Mm-hmm. Or to have not taken any action in the beginning, have not done it for fear that it wouldn't work out, and then always sit there wondering, what if I had?
Yep. Wish I would have.
Right.
Wish I would have. Those were, yeah. What if and wish I would have are two words that I won't say. Like back to back.
Unless you're saying I won't say them.
But I won't say, what if this happens? Well, what if the sun doesn't come up tomorrow? All the evidence shows that it will, but there is this possibility. Now, am I going to live my life as what if the sun won't come up? No. And wish I woulda? Man. I'm gonna grind until the day I die.
Awesome. It does take that conscious effort at first to catch ourselves and go, oh, there I am shooting myself.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm going to choose I'm going to choose a healthier thought process. And it takes time to rewire the brain, the neuroplasticity of rewiring the brain, but it does take that repetition of catching ourselves when we're shooting ourselves and go, all right, new way of being, new way of thinking.
So I just so there's this competition called ADCC. It's and it is the Olympics for grappling, for jiu-jitsu, for and I've been trying to get into this. You have to qualify or get invited. And I've been trying to get into this since I was 21 years old. And it was the only thing in my professional career that I didn't accomplish. Like I got into everything else, like I said. And man, this year I got an invite. And at this old man age, I was the oldest guy in the whole competition. And look, there was dreams of winning, but the people that win this are 20, right? It's like the Olympics.
Right.
And they dedicate their whole life to this that I don't dedicate. I mean, they train like I work.
Right.
Like, and I work like and then I train like they actually might work. Like, man, if I get 2 hours in a day, that's amazing. Like, and I can't do that every day. So, but they do. Mm-hmm. Now, what got me good enough to be able to qualify is peace of mind, like a different thought of how to compete. But now when it's time, like, so anyway, I get in and I have a 2-time champ and in the first round, and it's invite only. It's 16 people per division. So it's and it only happens once every 2 years. It's literally the Olympics. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to try this move right away. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to try to hit this move immediately. And it's a high risk, high reward move. And I didn't do it for the risk of it. For the reward of it. I did it for the risk because I knew it was going to get this idea of that I had to be perfect in the match out of my head right away. Immediately. I mean, look, I guess if I pulled it off, cool. I'd be on a highlight reel for the rest of my life pulling it off. But I was also taking this risk that I was going to be on a highlight reel messing it up for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And where we landed was somewhere in the middle, more towards the bad end. It went very poorly for me. But then I had to recover and I had to work my way out. And look, I didn't win, but it got me out of the idea of I have to be perfect, because I went into that and I was like, you know what? I'm going to kill or be killed. Like I'm really going to go for it because I don't want to have a boring match. I don't want to have a match where like, right? Like, so
you didn't play it safe.
If I get killed, and even at the end, I was like, okay, I'm losing right now. I was down on points. I was like, I could stay right here, and you never want to get finished, right? That's when you have to tap. That always sucks. It's always like kind of, it messes with your ego. So, but in the moment, I was like, okay, here I go. I'm going to take this risk because the only way that I could actually possibly still win is to now take this next major risk of possibly getting finished. And I got finished because the guy's amazing. He's a multiple 10, he's like a 5-time, 6-time world champion. So it is what it is. And I'm 40, right? So, but I was super proud of myself for keeping the kill or be killed mentality all the way through the match. But I blew it immediately. I didn't go 10 seconds without an absolute epic fail. And then it had no bearing on the match. I recovered to the point where it was neutral again. The score still stayed 0-0. And so, yeah, fine.
That's so sweet. I love recovery stories. I love it. Because
that's what we have to do.
Getting, shaking it off and like mentally recovering is a skill. Like, how quickly can I bounce back? Another landmark form experience after my mom died, I went and took I retook the landmark form, which is their like foundation weekend course. That's the course where they like have you get like that I'm a cause of everything in my world. And you're like, the people are fighting it. They're like, well, what about rape? And what about, and they're bringing up all the, like really, really dark stuff. And by the end of the course, they get it, that it's like, it's it's taking responsibility so that nothing else has power over you. And that then once you're in that mentally position, you position yourself as being responsible for everything in your world, then you are at cause in your moment. Every moment you're at cause creating your world. And so a victim of rape is no longer a victim of rape. They're being at cause in their world, and they get to decide how they're going to move forward with their life and not allow that act that happened to them to continue to affect them years later. They're going to seek healing.
How long are you going to let that person rape you?
Exactly. And it's not condoning it. It's not, it's bad. It's horrible. It's wrong. They should all be castrated. Seriously, maximum penalty. And the person who had it happen to them, they have the power to become empowered, to find their power, right? So anyways, that's like the first step in the form. So it's a pretty heavy, it's a freaking heavy weekend. And I drove all the way to Montreal with a few of my friends, and one of the oldest form leaders.
Where in Canada are you from?
I'm from Toronto.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm from North York. And one of the oldest form leaders who'd been doing it for like 30 years, I asked him, I'm like, I just lost my mom a few months ago, and I'm really depressed. I'm grieving really heavily, and I just can't get out of this loop. And I want to make sure I'm grieving healthfully. And he told me a story. He goes, when I was leading a landmark forum, so he was leading this class for hundreds of people. It's a really big class. And they only have like 15-minute breaks. And so he comes out, and it's his break, and he's, drinking some water or something. And he gets a phone call, and his brother had just died of a heart attack. And his mind just starts going off. He goes, I thought about our last phone call. I can't remember whether I said I love you or not. I didn't say I love you. We had a fight. And it just started vicious cycle over and over again. He started feeling guilty and shame and blaming and angry, and his mind was just messed up, like anyone would be, to get the news that their brother had died. And he only had 15 minutes to recover and go back on stage and because the lives of these people are at stake, right? They're all there to get a transformation in their life, and he can't just check out mentally. Yeah. And so he had to seriously have a moment, just like you did, where it's like he had to recover. And so he caught himself, and this is what really hit me, is that even the healthiest people in the world, the healthiest person in the world, still will catch the cold once in a while. But it's how fast their body heals. It's how fast their body gets over it. So they might have a fever, go to bed with sniffles, and wake up the next day and be totally fine. Whereas the average person is in bed for a week or two, right? It's not that we are infallible. It's not that you get so good at personal growth that you never fail or never slip up. It's how fast you recover. And so he shared the story of how he was able to recover from that. He said to himself, he just got in touch with with the reality, what is real in the now. He said to himself, I miss him. I love him. I'm sad. He said about his brother. I can't remember his brother's name, but I miss Tom. I love him. I'm sad. I miss him. I love him. I'm sad. And any other thought was not what's so. It wasn't real. It was made up story. He didn't know I loved him. He did, or it's my fault. I should have done this. I should have done that. Right. All of that was just tripping him up. But if he just got in touch with what's so is I miss him. I love him. I'm sad. And that's what kept him present in the moment. And then he recovered, and he got back on stage, and he led an amazing weekend for those people. And he wasn't, some people might go, well, he wasn't grieving healthfully, or he was shoving it down. He wasn't ignoring his feelings. He was owning them. He wasn't pushing them away. He was in them. He was he went through them, just like you said, go through it. He went through it. He owned it, but he recovered. And he said, eventually the sadness went away. And so then he just said, I miss him. I love him. He said he's gone. He's gone. I miss him. I love him. I'm sad. He's gone. I miss him. I love him. I'm sad. And then eventually it was, he's gone. I miss him. I love him. And that really helped me with my grieving, because it's like, yeah, I had so much going on in my head about blaming myself for, I mean, my mom died of cancer and I was 22 years old. And yet I felt like it was my fault, or I could have done so if I only had done this, if I had only done that. Right? So I had to own what's so, and then really get all that stuff that's not so is not real, and stop holding it against myself. But that I love that your story shows that in the most intense situation, you chose to do something completely ballsy, and you totally are okay that it messed up, because you recovered really quickly mentally. And it's all mental, right? Because you have to be, your game is in your head. So you mentally recovered, and then you physically recovered, and then you like shook it off and you kept fighting.
So for me, and man, we have to practice. Right? Like we have to practice for when the big moments come, like when your mom dies and your brother dies. Mm-hmm. Because let me tell you, it's not a big moment? Who the world champion is. Because what's your favorite sport?
Hockey.
Well, who won the Stanley Cup? Who won the Stanley Cup in 2011?
Oh, geez, I have no idea. I'm not that great.
No. Hold on. I love jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
I love jiu-jitsu, and guess what? I don't know who the world champion was either. Okay. Because how can it actually matter if we don't know? If we don't know who the if we have to Google who the very, very best was at said activity, in that year at that moment, then it can't really actually matter. So what is the point of this? The point of this is for me to go out there and practice being in a moment. So even if I would have won that match, it still wouldn't have mattered. Because what's going to matter is my kid's going to need me at some point. Mm-hmm. My kid's going to need me maybe on my worst day, when my mom dies or something, and I'm going to have to show up. I'm still going to have to show up. So that's the practice that I'm doing. I'm not these tough moments that I choose to put myself in. Come on. You think somebody cares about who wins a barely legal street fight on a Saturday night? No. Nobody cares, because if they did, they would remember them all. But we sure do remember the times when we really needed somebody. And so those are the moments that I'm practicing for. Those are the moments that I'm always practicing for. And that's why I choose to do really hard stuff. I like hard stuff. I like working out really intensely. Not for I know about the physical benefits. Yes. I like the mental benefits.
Mm-hmm. I actually got to hang out with Mary Lou Henner a few times. She's an actress.
Okay.
And she was in Taxi, and she was on The Apprentice. I thought she was really good on The Apprentice. And she has this crazy ability that she has photographic memory, but you can tell her what happened on May 7th of 1982. And she will tell you everything that happened. Or you could say to her, if you've met her a few times, tell me every date we ever, like every period in time we ever met each other. She just remembers dates and what happened on each day. Like she's photographic memory. So she's a really cool public speaker. Okay. And we had an opportunity to hear her a few times, and actually were in Cancun with her at one point. But she has this thing where she says, choose your hard. And she has a whole spiel, obviously, that comes with it. But the point is, choose your hard. Don't sit there and worry about stuff and try to stay safe and try to keep comfortable, right? Because the more we try to stay safe and keep comfortable, the more uncomfortable and unsafe we'll be down the road.
Oh, God, it's terrible.
Yeah.
It's so terrible.
Choose
it's what
hard.
We do, though, right? It goes back to our kids. Mm-hmm. All this stuff we do to make our kids safe.
And we're just making them unsafe because we're making them so naive and so sheltered.
So sheltered. And like I read this great book, and it's called The Coddling of the American Mind by Jonathan Haidt. And it's got this amazing line in it. Are you preparing your kid for the road, or are you preparing the road for your kid?
Oh my gosh.
And we know we can't prepare the road for the kid, because we don't know what the road looks like. Mm-hmm. You can't prepare it. It's impossible. So you have to prepare the child. You have to prepare the child and you. Where we blow this is we think that our kids' failures are our failures, that they're sucking at soccer is us, right? or their bad grade at school. And so what did we do? We stopped keeping score and we stopped giving them grades. Right. And man, this to like your child's 4. I don't know how many sports she plays yet or if she's even into them. But let me tell you, the no scoreboard thing is terrible. It's awful. You should see what happens because we have 2 options with the no scoreboard thing. We can, if we don't want to keep score, then we also have to teach our kids not to count. Because if they can count, they're going to keep score. And since there's not a board that says the score, they scream the score out. And God forbid it's a blowout. And it's 42-2 because they're counting. Mm-hmm. And if the actual 42-2 was just right on the board, they wouldn't count.
And rubbing in each other's faces.
Yeah. No, it seems like they're rubbing in each other's faces when they're screaming 42-2, but they're not. They're just counting. They're just counting. It seems like they're bragging, but they're 6 and they're 5, so you practice what you're learning, right? You're learning how to count and stuff in school, so that's what you're doing. Now, look, if we just put the scoreboard up there, they wouldn't do it. And it wouldn't seem like bragging, and they wouldn't be screaming at each other, and none of this would be going on. And we could actually talk to our kids about, hey, Kanan, that's my oldest. This is how you deal with winning by that much. And hey, Kanan, when you're on the other side of 42-2, I know that feels really bad. So now we've got some choices that we can make. So we can either quit and give up, or we can try to learn how to play basketball better. Now, look, I won't even say quitting and giving up isn't your thing, because maybe you have 2 left hands and you can't dribble, and athletics is just not for you. But maybe art is, right? Or maybe this is. But let's go find what you're great at. That's okay. I'm fine with it. We're not quitting this season. You chose to play basketball, so we're sticking it out. I get it. Not for you, man. So I know I loved basketball. But that's okay that you don't. What are we going to do for you to be amazing? This has nothing to do with me. So all of this prepare your kid for the road stuff, it's all back on us. We just can't handle our kids sucking.
And it's robbing them of learning from failure. It's robbing them.
Have you learned any other way?
I do not learn from success. I learn from failure, and then I tweak and I go, oh, that worked. Okay, keep doing that.
How'd your child learn how to walk?
Right. A lot of wobbly. Failed. Yeah. A lot
of wobbly, right? It does this rock thing on its it does shoulder to shoulder on its back, right? And then it can, I rolled over. And that took like a couple months. And then he or she does this thing where they start to get up on their hands and knees, and then they slip out. And then they do this thing where they get up on their hands and knees and they rock back and forth like they're getting ready to crawl. And they do that for like a couple of weeks, right? And this was my 2 anyway. and then they crawl, and then they fall over, and then they get back up, and then they start to pick themselves up on objects like your couches.
Yeah.
Right. And this is when things get really bad, because now they're about to be mobile and you can't just put them down anymore. And they won't be in the same spot when you get back. And then they start crawling or walking along a couch, and then they get really brave. And they get really, really brave. And they let go of the couch. And when they let go of the couch, what happens? They fall. But it doesn't stop them. But somewhere along the line, we do something to them that stops them with their learning, that they think that this doing poorly is really, really bad. Yeah. And it's just not. It's just not. It's just a lesson. And man, sometimes you know what? You got to say, hey, Johnny, that was not good. But you can't say, Johnny, that was not good, and then walk away from them. You have to say, Johnny, that was not good, and I'm going to be here with you until we figure out either how to make it good or how to change directions. But I'm not leaving you. I'm not leaving you. I'll never leave you. So let's do this. Which one?
I love it. I love it. Oh, own failure, be excited about it so that we can learn from it and grow from it, and be willing to push ourselves outside of our comfort zones, to be okay with the failure. Like that's, I know it sounds cliche, but it's like, that is the most joy you're going to get. Like, you know, I played softball and our team came in dead last. I mean, I don't think we won any games. And I look back on that so fondly. I had so much fun. We just tried our hardest. You know, we weren't crying. We weren't butthurt. We were hitting the ball as much as we could and running as fast as we could. And we just really sucked. And that's okay, because I look back on the times that I played softball and I had so much fun. And I noticed that I was a bit better, you know, at the end of the season. Right. And if we had probably kept going year after year, we would have improved. But it's okay. It's okay to not be perfect. It's okay to burn something in the kitchen. You know, it's okay to, I don't know, not be able to run the marathon. It's just.
And then there's Tiger Woods, right? And then there's Tiger Woods, who had this overbearing dad who pushed him into this, and just, I mean, I'm reading like this chapter. It's one of the chapters in Stillness, and his dad was intense. There's a Tiger Woods chapter. I mean, his dad, in his swing, while he was swinging, he would throw change at him and hit him with things. And he'd call him a little N-word, you little N-word, like, so that he could just get, like, he made Tiger into the stone cold killer that Tiger Woods became. But it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. Tiger is probably one of the best, is probably the best golfer that's ever played. He's for sure made the most money. And what happened? It just fell apart. It fell apart. How did he get it back? Because he just got it back in the Masters this year, right? He went a decade without winning a major. What changed? He changed. He started to love people. He started to love the crowd, because he used to hate the crowd, hated the other players on tour, because that's what his dad made him into being. Then he saw how wrong it was. He reconciled with his ex-wife. I don't mean reconciled like they're back together. They're not back together, but they're able to co-parent, which is what's more important than that. Yeah, right? Like, that's the biggest thing that guy had to fix. That relationship with his ex-wife, so that they could actually be in the same, good parents together. Because there's going to be times, right, when who's going to be at the graduation, mommy or daddy? Man, that's awful for a child. Yeah. Right. But so that's what he fixed. And then, I mean, this story to me is one of the most amazing stories there is. And then he was able to come back, and then he was able to do what he did at the Masters. And look at what it did for us. It's the first time since September, since 9/11, right? Since 2001, that every single person watching something agreed. On Sunday, everyone wanted Tiger to win. That's what was amazing, because damn, we love a success story. We loved the success story of Tiger. But man, do we love even more to watch someone fall and then rise again. That's the Jesus story. We love it. We love it. We eat it up. And we love to watch it come true. And he couldn't have done that without totally breaking himself down. And that's what he had to do. And then look what it did for us. It was amazing. People that don't even like golf were sitting in bars watching Tiger Woods cheering. Like, they've been cheering for him since 1997, you know? They're like, yeah! Like, because it's amazing. It's amazing. It gave you some hope that as a 40-year-old that you could reinvent yourself. That it's not over.
Yeah. Brilliant. It's never over.
It's not. It's over when the dirt comes on top.
Yeah. When they put you in the ground.
Eyes closed. Yeah.
When they put you in the ground, then it's over.
It's over, you know? And until that point, we need to thank the people that came before us and lead for the people that are coming with us. You know, for me, I just did something that was really interesting. So, like I said, my grandparents survived the Holocaust, but I'm not religious. I mean, if you ask me what I am, I'm Jewish because of them, because of their suffering. And last Wednesday was Yom Kippur, and you're supposed to fast on Yom Kippur. And I've never fasted before, but man, I felt the need to fast, and I'm gonna fast every year on Yom Kippur until it ends, and it's for them, and it's to pass on my family's tradition because. And I told this to all of my students. I told all my students on Tuesday night because it was Tuesday night to Wednesday night. And I said, look, guys, I'm going to fast tomorrow. And it's for my grandparents because my grandparents survived the camps. And what happened to them, what happened to my grandfather while in the camps, he swore that when Hitler came again, I know we started with this, that his family was always going to get out. Like we were always going to, like he was going to make it so that we would be okay. His blood would always be okay. And that man saw everyone die. He saw his whole, like when the ghettos were raided, that was it. That was the last time he saw any of his family. And he had 9 brothers and sisters, a mom and dad, everything. That was done. That was the last, you know?
Wow.
So it was over. He then saw his wife die before him. His oldest child, my uncle, died before he died. And then he died finally. So the only blood that he didn't see die was my mom and me and my sister. And I can remember my whole life, he just wanted me to do something like financially secure. Do this, right? Like so that you could always like be my own boss. And he fought me the whole way in this martial arts thing. Like, no, you're blah, blah, blah. And I always said I was going to open my own martial arts school. And he's like, what are you doing? He fought me the whole way. And then when he was dying, I went and I took my oldest son, because my oldest son was a baby at the time, and I took him to see him, so that he could see him before he died. And so he got to meet him, and then they my wife took my baby and left, and it was super obvious that this was going to be it. This was going to be the last time that I saw my grandfather, and we started crying, and my mom started crying, and he looked at my mom. And he said, just give him whatever he wants to me. You know, give him whatever he wants when he wants it. And so he died with a little bit of money. I mean, like, look, just a little bit. And what it did was my mom did it. My mom gave me that money, and that's what opened my first school with that. Let me buy into the school. So I don't have anything in my life without that, without his sacrifice, without his whatever it is that he did. So I'm going to fast, and I'm not fasting every year because I believe in any of that stuff. I'm fasting for them, and I'm fasting again. It comes back to people, right? Help people and pass it along. Because what he did for me, I can't pay that back, right? I can't pay that back. And it goes back to almost everything we were talking about, right? Like that terribleness of the concentration camps. Well, what it led to is this amazingness that I have with my jiu-jitsu schools. And that's what ended up saving my life, right? That's what saved my life when it went dark for me. But but that awfulness. So when we talk about like the Holocaust and things like that, and we're talking about ownership, look, he just said, look, of course it's not his fault. He's going to make it so that nobody, his blood doesn't ever have to deal with this again.
Yeah.
And now I get to have this amazing thing that I have, this community of martial arts where, and it's more than a community of martial arts, this community of family where, man, I get to employ my best friends, and they get to have they don't have jobs, they have careers, you know, they have careers. They're never going to go do anything else unless they want to. They're going to be able to take care of their families, you know, and that's all because of this awful thing that was the Holocaust. That's why all of this happened. And so for me, a little bit of suffering and a little bit of sitting back and realizing that one day a year, I can handle that.
You said you can't pay him back, but you can pay it forward.
Oh, the only thing I can do is try to make more people be as lucky as I was from that moment.
Yeah.
Everyone that comes in contact with me, I just want them to be so lucky. Like that's how, and I want them to be like, God, man, I'm going to find my power because look, this is from the Holocaust to here. And you can draw the line, right? You can draw the line of my family from one of the most awful things that's ever happened in the history of the world to where we are today, to where I am today. And it's a straight line. You don't even have to make a turn.
I love it. That's brilliant. Thank you so much, Eliot Marshall, for coming on the show today
Yeah,
and
thanks, Ashley.
sharing some sage wisdom with us. It's been a real pleasure hanging out with you today, and you've given us a lot to chew on.
Just you can do it. You can do it, and if you're one of the ones suffering, just know you're not alone. And if you're one of the ones not suffering, go make someone's life better.
Yes.
Just watch what happens.
Yes.
Don't make your life. Don't worry about your life. Your life, if you're not suffering, then man, your life's doing pretty good. So go make someone else's life better. And now we're talking. So thank you so much. I mean, I loved this 2-hour thing because we got to really talk.
Yes. Awesome. It's been such a pleasure having you on the show, Eliot. You're welcome back anytime. This was great. And of course, the links to everything that Eliot Marshall does, his books and his podcasts are all going to be in the show notes of today's podcast at learntourhealth.com. Eliot, is there anything that you'd like to say to wrap up today's interview or any final homework that you want to give us?
I would like you to give me some homework. Is that okay? We talked about it.
Oh my gosh, I have homework for you. Are you ready for it? Okay. I was going to do this when we were done recording, but I'm going to hook you up with my friend Forrest Knutson, who is, his website's That Yogi Guy. And he has a ton of videos on YouTube, really entertaining because he wants it obviously to people to actually watch them. So he makes these entertaining videos on teaching Kriya Yoga, which is, again, not stretchy yoga, but like mind stretchy yoga. And so I'm going to hook you up with Forrest. You should chat with him. He loves teaching people how to make meditation even deeper and faster and better at it. And then I'm going to put you in touch with some of my content for eliminating anxiety because these tools, these neuro-linguistic programming tools, are outstanding when it comes to just bending the mind so it focuses on what you want instead of what you don't want to get to the root cause of anxiety. And then the last thing I was going to turn you on to, because a lot of people get really good results with this. I'm sure you take supplements and all that. Magnesium is the most important mineral in the body for everything. It has 1,800 processes that enzymatic processes they've figured out that the body needs magnesium for. And so it's more important than calcium. But when we're deficient in it, which a lot of people are, we actually can have physical anxiety and be in stress response easier. And people who, and you talked about sleep, people who use this magnesium notice better sleep, deeper, more restful sleep. So people who are deficient in magnesium, sleep problems is one of the, I mean, there's over 200 symptoms of magnesium deficiency, but sleep problems is one of them, and anxiety is another. And so it's really hard to get enough magnesium orally because of how the gut works. It just kind of goes out the other end really quickly. So IV has been sort of the best way, but no one's going to go into a doctor's office every week and go get intravenous magnesium. That's just not economical. And the other way is this concentrated liquid from the Zechstein Sea in Scandinavia that contains not only magnesium in its most absorbable form for the body, but also other cofactors. And so you take this concentrate and you put it in a little water and put your feet in it and you soak for an hour, and you could be doing a podcast right now with your feet soaking. I always do it when I'm doing something else too. I'm at the desk or I soak when I'm in the sauna, but I'm it's not like you're sitting there going, darn, I have to soak and I have nothing else to do. That doesn't ever happen. You can always do it while you're doing something. But
we talked about we don't live in that world.
We don't live in that
anymore.
world, no. But people have done, and this is thousands of people have done the blood test called the magnesium RBC test, where they test their magnesium before and after a 30-day soak challenge, and their magnesium goes up to healthy levels. So they've done all kinds of tests on it, but it's really, really, really cool. So I'm going to hook you up with the magnesium soak that I love. Kristen Bowen, who I've had on the show several times, created it after she was 78 pounds, having 30 seizures a day in a wheelchair.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, she tells her story. It's really amazing. But magnesium was major part of her recovery, and that's why she created the company, because the companies she was sourcing it from, they started, their quality went down, and so she decided to make her own. And so she gets it from the Zextine C, and she sells it in liquid form, not in the flake, because people go, oh, well, you can save money by using flakes. It's not the same. They've chemically processed it. They've taken a lot of the cofactors out. It does not raise magnesium RBC levels the same. And so people get a really, really positive difference. So I'm going to hook you up with Kristen Bowen. Her website's livingthegoodlifenaturally.com. That's a mouthful. And
no, it's okay. I'm stoked too. I'm stoked.
livingthegoodlifenaturally.com. And the listeners get a discount. A coupon code LTH gets the listener discount. But okay. I'm gonna make sure, I'm gonna send an email and like hook you up with Forrest and hook you up with Kristen Bowen. Then I'll send you some links for your anxiety. I have some interviews where I teach some of my stuff. But anyone listening that wants to know for more information, Forrest Knudsen, who's an amazing meditator, he's thatyogiguy.com. The magnesium soak, I'm totally obsessed with and in love with. I've been doing it for over a year. My son, for example, was he's just so high. They're hyper. They're 3 years old, right? He was 3 years old at the time. And he'd always fight us to go to sleep because he's an Aries. If you know astrology, he's just he's all about being in the now and being awake 24/7. And we got him to put through the magnesium soak in his bath. And it's not like he knew. It's a blind test. He didn't know we put it in his bath. And he started to tell us he was ready for bed. He's like, I'm ready. Can we read some books? I'm ready for bed. And we're like, yes. What? So yeah, no, it really, really works. A lot of my listeners have said it really helps. So that's livingthegoodlifenaturally.com, coupon code LTH. And then the third thing is on my website, learntruehealth.com. There's a tab at the top that says anxiety or for your anxiety. And you can type anxiety into the search bar and get all my episodes where I teach. And then I have a class, and it's only a few $100s where I teach 21 lessons that are about between 30 and 45 minutes long, 21 of them. And it's just for a few $100s, whereas it's everything I've taught since 2005 with all of my clients who have amazing success with eliminating anxiety. So those are my 3 pieces of homework. I'm gonna send you some emails and hook you up.
I was gonna ask you for it, but I wanted to bring it up that way because yes, I do take Lexapro, and I'm trying to come off of it. And we talked about it beforehand, and I'm just trying to come off of it just to see what the work that I've done over the last 3 years has been like.
Test yourself, and go,
just to test.
Yeah, how far have I come? That's.
Or look, maybe the Lexapro allows me to really go far, and that's okay too.
Yeah,
I'm okay with going back on if I have to.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of in the middle of it. It's not the most comfortable thing. Because there are some definite side effects to it, but I would like to still keep going for a little bit and keep challenging. So we talked about it offline, but I think it's real important for people to know online too. You are not suffering alone, and whatever you do, there's this huge stigma around SSRIs and things like that. Look, there. If you need it, you need it.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
If you need it, you need it.
It's better to be on it and be alive and be thriving than to not be on it and to go somewhere very dark.
We only get one chance at this beautiful thing that we call life.
Yeah.
And man, to go through it, yes, I do love suffering, but to go through it truly suffering, like fighting every day just to be alive, that's not living, guys. So if you need help, get help, and please, in whatever way you need to. So that is, thank you for the homework. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, Eliot, it's going to be fun. It's having you on the show in a year or two, and you can let us know, get the follow up. How's it been? I like doing that with guests where they come back and they share all right, well, I got off that med and this is what happened then. And then I wrote my book and then, or whatever, you're going to share the updates because you're never done learning. Maybe you won't be off.
Maybe I won't be off, and that will be okay too.
Yeah.
There's no
attachment.
There's no attachment to that, right? Everyone's truth isn't the same, so it's gonna be okay either way.
Well, I want to hear the update to your continuous
For sure.
journey, because you're constantly striving to grow. So it's always going to be an adventure to have you back.
Are you on Instagram, Ashley?
Yeah, Learn True Health
Learn True Health.
at Learn True Health.
At Learn True Health. I'm gonna follow you in a second. So,
Awesome.
Man, I really enjoyed this, and I really thank you very much.
Awesome, Eliot. Thank you. It's been such a pleasure having you on the show today, and I can't wait to keep in touch with you and have you back on the show and have you share your continuous journey with us.
Sounds great, Ashley. Have a great night.
Hello, True Health Seeker. Have you ever thought about becoming a health coach? Do you love learning about nutrition and how we can shift our lifestyle and our diet so that we can gain optimal health and happiness and longevity? Do you love helping your friends and family to solve their health problems and to figure out what they can do to eat healthier? Are you interested in becoming someone who can grow their own business, support people in their success? Do you love helping people? You might be the perfect candidate to become a health coach. I highly recommend checking out the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. I just spent the last year in their health coaching certification program, and it really blew me away. It was so amazing. I learned over 100 dietary theories. I learned all about nutrition, but from a standpoint of how we can help people to shift their life and shift their lifestyle to gain true holistic health. I definitely recommend you check them out. You can Google Institute for Integrative Nutrition or IIN and give them a call, or you can go to learntruehealth.com/coach and you can receive a free module of their training to check it out and see if it's something that you'd be interested in. Be sure to mention my name, Ashley James, and the Learn True Health podcast, because I made a deal with them that they will give you the best price possible. I highly recommend checking it out. It really changed my life to be in their program, and I'm such a big advocate that I wanted to spread this information. We need more health coaches. In fact, health coaching is the largest growing career right now in the health field. So many health coaches are getting in and helping people because you can work in chiropractic offices, doctors' offices, you can work in hospitals, you can work online through Skype and help people around the world. You can become an author, you can go into the school system and help your local schools shift their programs to help children be healthier. You can go into senior centers and help them to shift their diet and lifestyle to best support them in their success and their health goals. There's so many different available options for you when you become a certified health coach. So check out IIN, check out the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, mention my name, get the best deal. Give them a call and they'll give you lots of free information and help you to see if this is the right move for you. Classes are starting soon. The next round of classes are starting at the end of the month. So you're going to want to call them now and check it out. And if you know anyone in your life who would be an amazing coach, please tell them about it. Being a health coach is so rewarding and you get to help so many people. Are you looking to get the best supplements at the lowest price? For high quality supplements and to talk to someone about what supplements are best for you, go to takeyoursupplements.com and one of our fantastic True Health coaches will help you pick out the right supplements for you that are the highest quality and the best price. That's takeyoursupplements.com. takeyoursupplements.com. That's takeyoursupplements.com. Be sure to ask about free shipping and our awesome referral program.